I just know that both of you have talked about in class um, sort of an acceleration of students' learning. And I guess what I'm wanting to point out about that is that people who are reaching for this work right now, like that's a whisper to listen to. And I know that you in class enjoy sort of the students bringing their curiosity and picking up on the concepts quickly and expanding on them with their own experience. I don't know if there's anything for you to say about that, but I just want to point out that whatever is drawing you to this work, that's a whisper to listen to. And there may be a particular reason, a stated reason that you're interested in this. But as everyone has shared here already, there's so much more that comes. So anyway, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Um,
So when we're talking about the
I,
accelerated,
I would like to, Curly, but all I'm sitting here is going, yep, yep, it's really marvelous. Yep.
when we're talking about the accelerated learning, there's definitely, a consciousness shift in the world. Concepts we were presenting 30 years ago that were challenging to people, they're like, well, yeah, we know that.
Yeah, that's the main difference. I mean, the students now versus, or just the people we get to be with are, they're in a really different place now than they were 30 years ago. And I guess that might seem to make sense because 30 years ago, people were still discovering electric waffle irons and toasters and things like that. Um,
And
We're constantly adjusting the course for
well, that's a good point.
what
Yeah.
this for what the students bring. So um we're covering the same material, but sometimes we'll spend more time in one section or less time depending on like what the students are bringing, what's happening in the class, how the last exercise went. So we have an approximate outline for classes, but we don't have this like set in stone, this is what happens at this time. So if you ever have to miss a day and you're asking Jamie what goes on during that day and she has to get back to you, this is why, because things change. And we don't always know for sure. But um, it's not just the curiosity that we welcome, the skepticism, the frustration, the anger, the annoyance is all also welcome in the space, which allows people, and all the other emotions, it allows people to have their experience and to learn from their experience and for others to learn from their experience. So we start most days with what's called open frame, and that's where people are asking questions and checking in. And some people think it's us talking one-on-one with students and everybody having to watch. But in that, we're also like modeling some of the learning from each other. And we're also encouraging everybody to understand everybody else's experience a little bit. Every time we open up and understand another person's experience, our capacity and our experience expands and our resources expand. And that's a really important thing is to be able to learn from everyone you interact with, no matter how annoying they are.
Or even if they're not annoying.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Or watching annoyance transform into something completely beautiful because of the connection you're creating with another human being. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty beautiful sometimes when a person sits down in the chair in front of you and you ask them what they would like, and they've never really answered that for themselves. So to see their eyes navigate that almost in a right to have what they want is, and that comes very shortly in class. And from there, it just expands.
Like very quickly,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful.
And one of the benefits of the course as a student is that you are asked that question a fair amount, but you're also asking people a fair amount. And we work in the triads, so there's the programmer, that's the one that's, asking the questions, whatever. The subject, that's the one answering. And then the meta person is the one who's observing. So a third of the time you're being asked the questions, a third of the time you're asking the questions, and a third of the time you're observing. So in any rotation, you are getting like to hear 3 different desired states, 3 different wants. And people's idea of what's available to want expands really quickly. How often do you have a conversation with your friends about what you want?
Mm.
Like, we often complain with each other, and we often share horror stories or gossip or just like the facts of life. But actually sharing our hopes and dreams with each other, you have to get into a little bit different conversation with your friends to get there. But through the course of a day with us, you might have 3 or 4 exercises where you're having some of that come up. So this whole like idea of things to want goes, oh wow, I could want that too. I do want that too. And that's nice because I sometimes like need a menu to kind of pick from.
Well, and just recognize how many times this week we asked, what would you like? And that with each exercise we taught you each day, we encourage you, how do these questions refine your goal? How does it change what you want? Sometimes it sharpened what you would like, sometimes it changed what you would like. But there's a real appreciation for that process of inquiry that blossoms uh, and expands what you would like and makes more of what you want in life possible.
And we'll do a little bit of what we did this week and so much more.
Yeah,
Yes.
the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, you got the embryonic iceberg this week. Yeah. So you all asked me a few questions that I've been sitting here going. "Hmm." Oh, by the way, perhaps we could direct people to the podcast I did a few days ago. Carrie Lee,
We
would
will.
that
We
be?
will be posting
Oh,
that
okay.
as Andrew makes that available. Yes.
Yeah, super. Because I, I recorded a podcast with Andrew Horn I guess Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Um, and as Andrew and I were chatting before we started, um, I made it clear to him that my elevator speech about transformational neurolinguistic programming takes 3.5 hours. So I need a very slow elevator, a very tall building, but we only recorded an hour, which was fun. It was lots of fun doing that. And from what you all were asking earlier, and from my experience of talking with Andrew, um, a thing, not the thing, but a thing that I most appreciate about what we do and how we do it is that um, well, Andrew asked, why do you call it transformational NLP? And I made the the contrast between sort of 1980s style neurolinguistic programming, okay, which was how to pick up people in bars. Like the whole thing had deteriorated, not everywhere, certainly not with us, or me or Carla, shall I say, because, well, hadn't encountered NLP Marin yet because we hadn't started it yet. Um, there is an instinct that humans have when they want to have a better experience is to turn against themselves more powerfully so they can get control of themselves and so they can overcome their limitations. Um, and for me, the two or three most fun things about transformational NLP is it does the information and the insights and the amazing like learning, which isn't just book learning, it's all experiential as well. There's some book learning and you've all learned some, well, you all have a new glossary, shall we say, about some stuff. Um, it assists people to just ease up on the war with themselves and to stop turning against themselves and to even stop trying to stop turning against themselves or to stop trying to stop turning against themselves, right? to just slide into rapport with themselves, where they're not where they're not running up and down their personal history their current situation and declaring it all to be magnificent and brilliant and the likes of this have never been seen on planet Earth before. No, it doesn't have to be. It's that, but it's like we come to understand how it is that we are the way we are, collectively, like as physical humans, but also individually. And then out of that, there's a kind of a big, oh, okay, for a minute there, I thought there was something really wrong. And then out of that, there's a sense of appreciation and self-respect and kind of ease, where every morning is not our last chance to make up for the past or all of that kind of stuff. It just makes being physically human a lot more relaxed, and makes learning a lot more fun, because there's not going to be a test.
I don't know that
Or,
we've
or even a quiz. Yes. Okay.
that Carl just said something to remind me. I don't know that we've said this, but a lot of the NLP change work is, well, all of it is not about forcing somebody to be different. It's about removing the blocks that are keeping you from being able to be who you are, and discovering that, like, that's kind of the best. NLP done really well. Often the person who has been the subject doesn't feel different afterwards. So the change that happens isn't this startling, I have to adjust to it in my life. We feel more naturally ourselves. And I liken it to most of us don't notice the moment a headache stops. But when that energy is the energy we were putting up dealing with that headache is freed up, we have a lot more resources and are much more able to respond to our world. And it might be an hour or two down the road, we realize that we don't have a headache anymore. Usually when I work with clients, I often, first time clients, I will sometimes tell them, you may not feel a whole lot different, but you may get comments from friends like, did you get a haircut? Are those new glasses? Did you fall in love? What's, like, you look, what's different? Because they're your friends know something's a little different, but they don't know what it is. And they attribute it to something that is positive has happened in your life. And they're trying to figure out what that is. Like, is that a new shirt? Like, they're just, and it's very fun sometimes clients will come back to me like, somebody did it to me.
Yeah.
Because our friends sometimes notice that we're not stressed in the way we used to be about something, or we're speaking more clearly or sharing something at a level that we didn't normally do before, or we're able to, or we just seem happier in our lives.
Yeah.
And we don't always notice that.
I actually have two examples of that. Going through this curriculum, if I got nothing else, this changed my life forever, is I liked myself better. I did not go against myself in the ways that I did before. And if I got nothing else, that would have been great. But oh boy, did I get a lot of something else. One thing that's very trackable for me, but it had to be pointed out, as Carla said, I was terrified of heights. So we would drive to Tahoe white knuckling it. Oh, and I go, I'm not going to go off the cliff. I'm not going to go off the cliff. So when it drops down a lot, so I did a change piece with a
When you
peer in
go
class.
off the cliff and it drops down a lot? No, that's not
Well,
what you mean.
my
No,
head is
okay.
going off the cliff, but
Oh,
I
okay,
never did.
okay,
But
okay.
I didn't know if I was going to do it. So I thank you for clarifying, Carl, because yeah, I did not do that. But as I would drive next to it, the horror and the terror, I mean, literally, I would be sweating. So a student in class, what would you like? I'd like to have a healthy relationship with heights. Okay. Went through the whole thing. And we pulled up an imprint, which we have not talked about in this class, of when I was young, about 8 years old, where I fused together two things, what fires together, wires together, which was sheer abandonment. And we were driving on the edge of the cliff at the time. So I blamed the abandonment terror on the cliff, teased it apart, did work on both. all of a sudden, maybe a month later, we're driving to Tahoe, and I'm like, geez, have you guys seen that skyline before? How are all those
Mm,
trees so lined up? Everyone in the
mm,
car was in shock. And then I slept on the way home in the car and didn't have to drive. So that was a tangible one
wow.
that I didn't
Wow.
quite notice. Yeah, pretty beautiful.
Yeah. You were just noticing the tree line. You weren't thinking, gee, I'm not afraid of heights right now.
Exactly. I'm not going to traverse off the cliff white knuckling it. Yeah. So these changes are, and there's so many areas. I am so great. I'm so happy for Kayla that she did this work before she had kids. Beyond imagine, because I became such a better parent when I got more into rapport with myself and I learned some actionable tools. I've worked just so many beautiful tools for my family. But I do want to mention we do have a question in chat from
Yeah.
Jeff. Okay,
Yeah. And I did answer it, but let's let Carl answer it. Okay. I'm going to
Ye-
read it to you, Carl. Or
Yay,
can you
Jeff.
see it? Can you see it? I'll read it to you, Carl, just so Jeff can watch your response. So most people, when trying to change on their own, go against themselves and ultimately sabotage their changes.
yeah.
I- Is there
That's
what?
the question, basically.
And
Yeah.
he had a
Oh,
question mark at the end of it.
Yeah. Is
okay. Um,
that nicely said, Carl?
um, yes, or they invalidate who and how they've been until that time when something changed. Yeah. And that's a high price to pay for having a better experience now, is having to invalidate how and 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 where and what we were before the evolution happened. In the word programming is in neurolinguistic programming, and it probably would have been much easier to talk about for 40 years if the word programming weren't there, if it were some more elevated kind of, it's like, you know, it is not mind control. Our human nervous systems actually operate on programs. If this, then that, if Cliff, then right, that's a program. So um, there's the programming part that changes experience immediately. And then there's a kind of cumulative uh, addition of a number of these revisions that have been sitting in there waiting to be revised, but no one had the toolbox to do it really straightforwardly and quickly with until NLP. And then there's the consequent evolution of our sense of ourselves and where we belong in the being physically human, where we belong in the world, or where we would like to belong. And belonging changes too. It doesn't like you go out and you join every service organization in town. You join the Lions and you join the Kiwanis and no. Although you could if you wanted to, I guess. It's just like there's oh, I am here. I'm physically human on planet Earth, and I come from a long lineage of beings who've been physically human on planet Earth, and this I belong here, and I have the wherewithal to have my intentions and desires transfer themselves into my experience of myself and the world. And I don't have to remember to be different about a whole lot of stuff that I was trying to muscle my way through before in life. It's really elegant. It's absolutely gorgeous. Um, and it's something I'm happy to be the caboose of, truly.
So when we're working with people, we're not making where they are wrong or their past wrong. We're assuming, and we know this, that where they are was something that they worked really hard to get where they are. There was a lot of brilliance and creative energy that went into that. And what we're trying to do is just help reconfigure, reprogram things a little bit so that now they can evolve into, actually not evolve into, but actually begin to bring forth out of themselves who they are more cleanly, more clearly, more, and
Without having to work on it.
without having to work on it. And with all of the creative energy and brilliance that went into creating where they are, now available for moving forward.